Boom. Here we are, Harlem. What's the street, bro?
We're on 125th and
okay.
Near.
Boom. We're 125th. You said enough. Here we are, Harlem. You know what I'm saying? Harlem World. Walking down 125th with Daniel Aguilar of Systematic Freedom, and out here building, making connections, organizing actions. Just gonna get his perspective on what's going on here in America. Daniel, what's up with it, bro?
Hello, family. Yep, Daniel Aguilar from Chicago, out here in school though right now, and you know, I'm basically out here because you know Mike Brown was killed, and his blood wasn't spilt in vain. Like I believe that his blood, like it sparked a movement, right? Like he died, but there's a whole lot of life that's coming out from that, you know, and so a whole lot of life, and you know, and this may be like a sort of my sort of religious background. I'm basically agnostic now, but the way I see it is that like it's almost like a resurrection, right? And he paid an ultimate price. And I'm not saying he was meant to do that. Like it's fucked up. It's tragic that he was killed. But right now, this doesn't seem like it's just another march. You know, people getting a permit and marching and chanting. Some people are doing that, but people are pissed. People are mobilizing. And what I saw when I was in Ferguson is that people are now ready to pay a higher price for freedom. So that's what's really exciting. And I'm guessing, and I really do think that it's the spirit of Mike Brown, you know, because like Mike Brown, Eric Garner, a bunch of others, people are connecting with that because they paid an ultimate price. And people are sick of that, you know, of people dying and being killed. And I think people are ready to now pay a higher price. Right. I think that's what would motivate someone to go and stand in the street, right, or go shut something down.
And so Daniel, I don't mean to be an asshole and cut you off, but you know, I kind of am an asshole. I was born this way. I'm sorry. Think of it as, so a lot of people want to marginalize shit. They want to be like, oh, well, you know what? Is that a housing project?
Yeah, that's
I've seen them on TV, but hey, that's pretty cool. Anyway,
sure.
as I was saying, people want to marginalize the shit, and they want to say, oh, well, you know, that was a Ferguson issue, that was a Cleveland issue, that's a Berkeley issue, that's fucking New York issue. How do all these things tie in? Like, are they related? If so, how are they related?
I mean, the state, you have local governments, but there's still a federal government, and all of these local governments they may be autonomous, but they all work. It's basically, you know, there's a handful of corporations that are really running the world. And the state is nothing but, all they do is enforce the laws that favor this sort of economic system. And the way it plays, and I'm not trying to, you know, some people, they try to like say, oh, it's not a race issue, it's a class issue. No, fuck that. It's definitely, there's a race issue happening, but
it's all these fucking issues.
Yeah.
Think of it is, we're talking about the demographic of the most oppressed. Like a lot of people who are like, you know, privileged or more privileged than the most oppressed, they want to just talk about their piece. Well, you know, it's the banks. You know, but for the demographic of the most oppressed, we don't have money. We don't have access to education. We can't go to NYU. We can't go to Columbia. You know what I'm saying? We're in food desert, so it's an environmental issue. But on top of all that, we can't even walk to the store with our EBT card.
Right.
That's almost out, without being choked to death. So, you know, it's about all of that, but the primary issue is a fucking race issue.
Absolutely. And and this is a whole long historical thing. There's a really good book called Prisons of Poverty. Locke Kant wrote it. And then, you know, Michelle Alexander talks about the new Jim Crow. So, you know, these past 40 years, you've got these neoliberal economic reforms where you have rampant inequality. So, you know, with Reaganomics, basically they're saying, you know, tax breaks for the super rich, stagnating wages, all of that shit.
The police state, FTP, NYPD.
Exactly. And so what these economic reforms do is, first and foremost, they create this stratification, right? And so you're going to have an underclass of people. Historically, in the U.S., it's totally undeniable that the people that have been a part of the U.S., but at the most marginalized, is absolutely, it's a black America, right? And so, because like indigenous people, they've just been totally either wiped out or they're not even within the U.S. As a whole.
Marginalized to oblivion.
Yeah, to near oblivion for sure, practical oblivion. But so basically though, and this is a different scholar, someone who I heard talk about this. They said if you look at the history of black bodies,
I just want to make one point to our indigenous native people of these lands. To our Native American brothers and sisters, we stand in solidarity with
Absolutely.
you. Your struggle is our struggle. This is about you, and we got your back from Ferguson to New York to Cleveland to Berkeley. Go ahead.
Exactly. So I heard someone talk about like the history of black bodies in the U.S. And so from the beginning, it was the black body was always profitable. It was about economics, right? So you have slavery. The reason to bring black bodies here was to generate money for elites. Then slavery is ended. So then you have these Jim Crow laws that basically, and if you look at the 13th Amendment, it says there should be something like no slavery, and then there's a comma. It says except when convicted of a crime or when punishable for a crime. So a lot of people think slavery is abolished in the U.S. It's not. Read the 13th Amendment. I don't have the exact wording, but basically there's a clause that says except when you're convicted of a crime, basically you can be enslaved again. So then you had the whole prison system.
Prison industrial complex, slavery,
Exactly.
It's not over. Fuck the police.
Exactly. But then, and so then you had the war on drugs and all of that. But with these neoliberal economic reforms, so you have a greater and greater amount of people that are just being poorer and poorer. Now the state needs to figure out a way, like, how are we going to deal with all these poor people? And the way to do it is to delegitimize their protests. So you bring the war on drugs. Because what you do then is that when you start convicting people who are poor, when they want to go protest and say, hey, we're poor, wages, like this is a fucked up system, if you've already been convicted of something, basically, then people can say, oh, you have no right to protest. You're poor because, you're out there selling drugs, or you're poor, some bullshit, right? So that's the rationale for the police state, because now basically it's criminalizing the poor. Which is also tied to race, and once you criminalize them, and you can label someone a criminal, then you delegitimize their protests.
Then you can choke them out on the street in broad daylight on camera and still get off.
Exactly, but so that's my analysis of why this stuff is happening, or why the system is operating the way it is. But people are waking up, and not only are they waking up, but they're ready to pay a higher price. Malcolm X said, if you're not ready to die for it, then put the word freedom out of your vocabulary. And I live by that, like no justice, no peace is not a slogan, it's a creed.
No racist police.
Exactly, and these are creeds.
Say that then.
No racist police. And if you're not willing to pay, to get a little uncomfortable, then you're not really willing to, you have no right to ask for freedom if you're not, you know what I'm saying, like gonna fight for it, I guess.
Right.
Because otherwise, if you're not willing to fight for it, it's not going to be given to you. It's not going to be given to me. It's not going to be given to anybody. Nobody gets freedom as a gift.
But you know what? I'll do it for these niggas and do it for myself.
Right. Exactly. No, for sure. So yeah. I mean, I don't know what. I guess that's.
That was pretty solid though, Daniel. You know what I'm saying? Here we are, NYC, Harlem World, FTP. Systematic freedom.
Well, I'll say one last quick thing is why do we march, right? Why do we what's the logic behind, say, shutting down a street or shutting something down? There are clear political demands. Right now it's, demilitarize the police, right? But of course it goes beyond that. Convict killer cops, right? These are some of the very specific demands. We're also talking about wages, better schools, all of this stuff. But these demands, if people weren't shutting shit down, if a bunch of buildings didn't burn, and also to be clear, property damage is not violence to me. I don't consider that's not.
And it's not equivalent to fucking
killing someone, to spilling blood, right? And so the only reason why maybe some of these conversations are being had and people are actually, we're forcing them to listen. And the only way we're going to get, because someone said, if you can have fundamental change through voting, then voting would be illegal. Like, and not to marginalize, the high price that people paid in the 50s and 60s for the right to vote. I think people should have the right to vote, but I also think that there's only so far that's going to take you.
It ain't working.
There's only so far that's going to take you. And it really ain't working.
It ain't fucking working,
exactly.
man.
So that's why we have to disrupt shit. Because otherwise they're not going to listen to demands. And so until these demands are met, There will be no Christmas. There will be at least no Christmas as usual. There'll be no New Year's as usual. Whatever it is, it's not going to be business as usual.
You see all these fucking sirens and all these fucking cops and shit like that. This is why we scream thug life. This is why we say FTP. Yeah. Anyway, Daniel, go ahead and drop some contact information for people to reach out to you who want to build with you, organize with you, gather insight.
Yeah. So. Definitely, my reason for even just dropping, like my Twitter handle, is not to have some sort of platform, but I want to connect with you if you really are in this movement, in this struggle, to really get down and really challenge the state and the powers that be. So you could connect with me on Twitter at Danny Aguilar 4.
Fuck them.
Yeah, at Danny Aguilar 4, DANNYAGUILAR. But again, I'm not looking for fans or anything like that. I want to connect with real shakers and movers, and let's work together.
Danny, game recognized game and real recognized real. Right. Matter of fact, real recognized game and real. Right. Dig this. We know we ain't trying to platform build, bro. Build. But look, go ahead and drop that Twitter handle and spell it one more time.
At Danny Aguilar 4, DANNYAGUILAR 4.
All right.
Peace.
FTP, Ferguson to New York. Systematic freedom in the building.